Hello, my name is Dr. Linda Gorman, and I'm a neuroscientist. Neuroscience, really big word, but what it means is a neuroscientist is a person who knows a lot about the brain. Neuroscience is the science of the brain. I'm here today to talk to you about how you can make your brain healthy. It's really easy, and anyone can do it. I love to talk about brain health because it's spectacular, and spectacular means great. When your brain is spectacular, you're a happy and healthy person. This is a brain facts story. We have to know and understand some things about the brain if we're going to understand how to keep our brain healthy. So let's see how we can keep our brain healthy. We know that our brain controls all the behaviors that we do all the time to stay alive. Our brain knows when our body needs to breathe, when it needs to pump blood to our muscles so we can move, and helps us to keep warm when we're cold by making us shiver, and cool when we're hot by making us sweat. Our brain knows when we're hungry, tired, and thirsty. Our brain helps us to learn new things and to remember things we've already learned. So, given that the brain does so much for us, what can we do for our brain? Well, that's today's story. Be nice to your brain. Being nice to your brain means that you'll protect your brain and give your brain the things that it needs so it can keep you alive. Being nice to your brain helps your brain stay healthy. The first thing that you need to know about your brain is that while it controls a lot of what you do, your brain has a secret. Your brain acts like a superhero. Your brain is protecting you. And while it does behaviors to protect you, your brain needs protecting too. Now, everyone knows that your brain is inside of your head. This is a picture of what your brain would look like inside of your head. Now, does anyone know why your brain is inside of your head? Well, your brain is actually all squishy. Has anyone ever made Jello before? Have you ever touched it before it gets hard? That's kind of like what your brain is inside of your head. It's all squishy. Your head is made up of a very hard piece of bone, your skull. And inside your skull is your brain. Your hard skull protects your squishy brain. Okay, but if your brain is squishy and it were all alone inside of your head, and your skull is hard, what do you think would happen when every time you move your head or if you shook your head around? That's right, the poor brain would get all smashed up. Your squishy brain would keep hitting the hard skull. So, inside of your head, there's a watery substance. It's called cerebrospinal fluid. That's a big word. So we call it CSF for short. And what we see here in the blue, that's the watery CSF. And your brain, it floats around in the CSF that's inside of your head, just like you can float around in water. That way, the CSF can protect your squishy brain and it won't get hurt. Okay, so you have a hard skull to protect your brain, but that only works when your body is moving by itself. When your body is moving because you're on a bicycle or you're on a skateboard or you're on roller skates or you're on a scooter or you're on skis or a snowboard, then your skull needs help to protect your brain. That's because you're moving faster than your legs can carry you. You can protect your brain when you're moving faster than your legs can carry you by wearing a helmet. Wearing a helmet is going to protect your brain. And when you protect your brain, then you're being nice to your brain. Another way that you can be nice to your brain is by getting the sleep that your brain needs. Sleep is important because not only does your brain get some rest from all the work that it does during the day when you're sleeping, but the brain also has some very special chores to do while your body is sleeping. One of the big jobs that your brain has to do when you're sleeping is to take out the trash. So your brain puts on a janitor hat and gets rid of all the trash that's made when you're awake. This is actually something that scientists just learned about recently. It turns out that while you sleep, your brain takes out the trash because when you're awake, your brain makes lots of trash. Wait a minute, there's trash that my brain makes during the day and it has to take out the trash at night? Yep. The trash that's made in the brain is different though from normal trash. So what is brain trash? Well, the trash mainly consists of chemicals and proteins that are used when the neurons, those cells that do all the work in your brain, are talking to each other. These proteins get spit out of the neurons and they end up cluttering the space between the neurons. Now, if these chemicals don't get washed away, then the neurons have a hard time talking to each other. So you wouldn't be able to do all the normal behaviors you do. Sometimes this trash builds up so much that it can cause diseases. So while you're asleep, the brain washes away all the waste chemicals that get built up in your brain during the day. So when you're sleeping, the brain washes away these chemicals and it gets them out of your head and pushes them into your body where they can get broken down. Making sure you get enough sleep is another way that you can be nice to your brain. Not only are you letting your brain get some rest, but it will repair itself from all the work that it does when you're awake. And you're letting the brain clean out the trash to get ready for a new day. Another way you can be nice to your brain is by making sure your brain gets the energy it needs to do all the work that it does when you're asleep and when you're awake. Okay, but how does our brain get energy? Well, one of the ways you can make sure that your brain gets the energy it needs is to eat foods that are good for you. But what is good foods that are good for you? What does that mean? To be honest, there's a lot of different opinions about what foods are good for you. Okay, we know that your brain and your body, they need certain nutrients. So when you don't have a lot of energy, your brain and your body need nutrients so that you can get the energy that you need so that you can do the work that needs to be done to keep you alive. There are 6 essential nutrients. They are vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, water, and carbohydrates. There are some nutrients that your body can make, but there are some nutrients that your body can't make. So we need to eat foods that have these nutrients. Right now, there's a program called My Plate, which sort of helps us to understand foods that are designated as healthy and contain some of these nutrients that we want to eat. There are fruits like bananas and watermelons and pears. There's vegetables like carrots and corn and tomatoes, and there's an eggplant down there. There are grains like wheat and breads and oatmeal. There are proteins like eggs and fish and meat and nuts and seeds and tofu and beans and lentil. There's dairy products, low fat or fat free dairy products like milk and yogurt and cheese. These are the foods that contain nutrients that our brain needs. When we think about the My Plate as the food that we need to give our brain so that it gets the energy that it needs to be healthy, it makes it easier for us to understand what good foods or healthy foods are. It's not that the other foods are bad, it's just that these are foods that contain the nutrients that our brain needs to do the work that it needs to do to keep us alive. So if good foods are foods that our body needs, then there are some foods that we eat that may not be as healthy because they don't contain those nutrients that our body needs. They contain things that our body really doesn't need. Things like sodium, which is just salt. But most of the sodium we eat comes from packaged foods. There's added sugars like syrups and sweeteners that go into sodas and cereals and syrups. There's saturated fats that come from animal products like cheese and fatty meats like bacon and butter. Now, some of these foods, it's not that they're bad foods, it's just that they contain ingredients that our body doesn't need and they don't contain nutrients that our body does need. Now, the problem with some of these foods that we may like to eat because they taste so good, and we may eat them instead of the foods that contains the nutrients that we need to eat. Plus, we know all the food that we eat, it gives us energy. And that's what our body and our brain needs is energy. In fact, sugar, which is less healthy but tastier, gives you lots of energy. But the problem is some food energy burns faster than others, and sugar burns really fast. Okay, what do we mean by burns energy? Well, let's think about it like this. We know that fire needs fuel to burn, just like you and your brain need foods for energy. Now, if you were to burn a pile of leaves or a bunch of logs, which ones do you think would burn faster? Which ones do you think would burn longer? Well, the leaves would burn faster, fueling the fire, but it would not fuel the fire for that long. The fire would go out. If you burn the logs, they would burn slower and longer, so they would fuel the fire for a longer time. Sugar is just like leaves. It gives you lots of energy fast, but the energy that you get does not last very long. Now, just because some foods are not healthy, meaning that they don't give you the nutrients that you need, that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy them. These foods are yummy, so you should enjoy them. Just remember, you also need to eat foods that contain the nutrients that your brain and your body need. And a good rule of thumb is that when you're eating, just like lots of things, moderation is the key to healthy eating. So you make sure that if you're eating something yummy, but it doesn't contain nutrients your brain needs, that you still have to eat something that contains those nutrients so your body and your brain can get the energy and nutrients it needs and not just energy. Now, when you're hungry, you tend to eat whatever foods are available. You eat what's available because your brain needs energy, so you may not make good choices about what you eat, or you may not eat those foods in moderation. If we were to listen to our brain, we would make good choices about eating. If we were to listen to our brain and eat foods before we got really hungry, then we'd eat healthier. Unfortunately, most people don't listen to their brains when it comes to eating. Another thing to know about the brain is that it doesn't store energy. People may say someone's a fathead, but your brain doesn't store energy as fat like the rest of your body does. Because your brain controls all your behaviors, it needs lots of energy, but it doesn't store any energy. The energy is stored in your body. So you can be nice to your brain by making sure you pay attention to the signals you get when you're hungry. If you pay attention to when your brain needs food, you'll make healthier choices about what to eat. Eating healthier foods will keep your brain healthy. There are lots of ways that you can be nice to your brain, and we've just talked about some of them. Wearing a helmet when your body is moving faster than your feet can carry you is one way you can help your skull protect your brain. Sleeping when you're tired will help your brain to rest and repair itself, and it allows your brain to clean up all the trash that it made when you were awake. Eating foods that give your brain the energy and the nutrients that it needs to do its job, that's another way you can be nice to your brain. So these are just some of the ways that you can protect your brain because your brain is always protecting you. So thank you for letting me talk to you today about how you can be nice to your brain. I've enjoyed spending time with you today talking about your brain, and I hope you've had some fun and you've learned something. Remember, protect your squishy brains by wearing helmets. Get some sleep so your janitor brain can get to work. And eat when your brain tells you that you're hungry so that you can make healthier food choices. All of these things will help you to be nice to your brain and will help your brain stay healthy. And we all know a healthy brain is a spectacular brain. So thank you so much for all of your help. And remember, brain health, it's not just spectacular, it's fun too. We'd also like to thank the people at Johns Hopkins University, especially Dr. Ron Daniels, for helping us to help you understand how you can be nice to your brain. All you need to do is make sure that you're helping your skull protect your brain by wearing helmets when you're going faster than your feet can carry you. Make sure you get some sleep so that your janitor brain can clean things out from all the messes that were made during the day. And eat when your brain tells you that you're hungry. These things will make your brain healthy and will help your brain to let you do all the behaviors that you like to do and that you need to do to survive.